Welcome to part 2 of lecture 3.3, graphing linear equations in two variables. So I want to talk about a couple of special lines. And I've already plotted one of the lines. So y equals 1/2 x, right? This is very special because it goes through the origin. So it is a graph that goes, the line that goes through the origin. That's why this line is special. Let's plot the next one. X equals 3. You might be a little confused because you're like, I don't have any y's. How do I know? Well, think about x equals 3 as in x plus 0, y equals 3. Give it a whole bunch of y's and see what x has to be. When you think about it, when y is 0, x is 3. When y is 1, x is 3. When y is 5, x is 3. X is always 3. So what type of line does it make? I'm going to connect my dots. And it is a vertical line. X never changes. X is always 3. Okay. What about y equals -2? Well, if I rewrite it as 0x plus y equals -2, then you might be able to see that y, it doesn't matter what x is, y is always -2. So if y is always 2, so let's try x is, I don't know, -1. -1 times 0 is 0, so y is -2. Let's try, I don't know, 5. X is 5, so 5 times 0 is 0. Y is -2. And again, my third point to make sure I'm on the line, let's try, I don't know, how about x equals 1? Well, 1 times 0 is 0. Y equals -2. So it doesn't matter what x is, y is always -2. So it is a horizontal line. Okay? And that's y equals -2, and I should label my other one as x equals 3. So if I'm not going to label the points, I should label the lines. So let's look about special equations. Y equals, and this is how we just write it, so I'll explain it in a second. Y equals -mx. The line is going to go down, but it's going to go through the origin. Y equals +mx. It's going to go upwards and through the origin. Now, if you think about it, that -m, if you start from the left, you decrease, you slide down, so it's negative. Whereas if it's a +m, you start and you go up, so it's positive. So think about that, and I'll talk about m in a little bit. So it's vertical when x equals a number like, I don't know, -a. Well, it would be on the left-hand side of the y-axis, and it's vertical. Whereas if it's positive, it's going to be on the right-hand side of the y-axis. If it's 0, it actually is the y-axis because it's a straight line on the y-axis going through x equals 0. Now let's think of y minus b, or y equals b. Well, that means it's a horizontal line and it's above the x-axis. If it's negative, it's below the x-axis, and if it's just 0, it's the x-axis. So think about, before you start plotting things, think about if you can make your life a little bit easier by knowing if it's x equals something, it's a vertical line. If it's y equals something, just a constant, then it's a horizontal line. And if it's plus nothing, in essence, there's a multiplier to x, but it's plus nothing, then it goes through the origin. So I said I was going to talk about this special m. And m actually signifies, in a linear equation, the slope. And we'll talk about slope more in future lectures, but I just want to talk about it quickly here and start getting your intuition about linear equations going. So like I said, when it's negative, and if you start from the left, you go down, you slide down, so it's negative. When it's positive, you go uphill. Now thinking about the uphill, if this m is a big number, then the more steep it gets. No? It just gets more steep. The closer to 0, the flatter it becomes until it reaches 0, and it is until it reaches a horizontal line, and the slope of a horizontal line is 0. Now that might trigger a question of, what's the slope of a vertical line? Well, it has no slope. It's straight up and down. It absolutely has no slope. The answer to that question is no slope. Versus a horizontal line has 0 slope. And as you increase your slope, you increase m, the number in front of x. You increase that. Likewise, when you're on the negative side, if you get to, and I know this is backwards, but just the number itself, the number, not the negative sign, but the number itself, the bigger it is, the steeper the negative slope it is. So by saying all of that, do you expect that a slope of 2 is steeper than a slope of 1/2? Well, let's think about this. 1/2, and that would be something like y equals 1/2 x versus y equals 2x. 1/2 is closer to 0, so it's not as steep as 2 would be a little bit steeper. So start kind of getting your intuition going. So until next lecture, be seeing you.